Welcome to Break for Art. My name is Jessie Carrillo, Manager of Adult Programs with the Dallas Museum of Art. Today we are going to spend some time with Alejandro Obregón's 1956 etching, The Pigeons. Take a moment to make this video full screen so you can have an immersive experience with this work of art. We will begin by just looking. There's a lot to see here. Pause for as long as you need and then click play to see a few points of interest in the print. As you look, consider, what is your first reaction to this work of art? Do you like it? Dislike it? Why? What questions do you have as you look at this object? Let's take a couple of minutes to focus on the subject matter and what we can learn about Obregón's style in this print. Many of his works, paintings and prints alike, are broken up into 3 or more horizontal bands of visual content. Here, the scene is demarcated by the horizon line and the bottom of this form at the top. While we can't say that this print is entirely abstract, it is abstracted. Obregón spent most of his life in Colombia and painted the flora and fauna of that region. He started his career painting in a naturalistic style, but shifted to this more fantastical style that we see here. As we look closer at details, we'll see that recognizable objects are combined with elements of the imagined in his work. At center is a bird. We know from the title that it's a pigeon. The motif of a bird shows up a lot in Obregón's work, but usually as a condor. This pigeon appears to be perched atop a structure, perhaps high above the city. Notice the simplified shape of a rooftop repeated throughout the image, here and here. At this point in his career, he had returned to his hometown of Barranquilla, a town on the Magdalena River, a body of water that plays an important role in the history of Colombia. I like to imagine being on a rooftop with this pigeon and hearing the sounds of the town beneath me and the sounds of nature, while smelling the earthy smell of the river mixed with the cooking smells wafting out of home windows below. The artist's manipulation of natural and man-made objects in this scene leaves a lot of room for interpretation. For example, are we looking at the river with a red-pink sky? What is this large form that appears above the bird's head? Is it a boat? An amalgamation of many pigeons? What do you see in this form? Like the outline of the buildings that we saw, Obregón repeats a number of abstracted natural forms throughout the image. For example, we see beaks here on the pigeon, here, and here. We also see a repeating feather or frond shape within this first beak, also here, and of course here on our pigeon. The word that comes to mind for me when we look at this print is layers. So focusing on the star of the show, this pigeon at center, we see the black lines defining his outermost form, filled in with this bright magenta color, and then the aptly colored bone white layer beneath that almost seems to be the pigeon's skeleton. I see a third layer in this shadow behind the bird's head. It looks like a much larger bird, maybe an eagle or a condor, turning his gaze up to the sky. I like to think that this layer is what the pigeon imagines himself to be. Obregón is sometimes considered a surrealist, but we can also see the influence of cubism in the way that he combines different perspectives into one image, like this bird looking ahead and also looking up in its shadow. We'll wrap up looking at 2 of the most expressive qualities of Obregón's work: his use of color and line. How would you describe the colors in this painting? Obregón was primarily a painter, and I think that background comes through in his prints. They have an expressive and painterly look to them. Notice how the lines give definition to what otherwise would be kind of these painterly swaths of color, almost like what you would see in a watercolor painting. But the colors don't neatly line up within the confines of those black lines. This gives the impression that solid objects like the pigeon or the rooftop are not actually stable, but are constantly shifting, another feature taken from Cubist art. Obregón's paintings and prints often include contrasting elements, like areas that are both colorful and muted, or transparent and opaque. Take a moment to find one part of the print where each of these contrasts exist. Here are two that stand out to me. Look at the contrast between the carefully painted, opaque white section of the bird's head compared to his chest, which is a multi-layered combination of transparent color washes all mixing together in a wonderful way. And down here is a striking contrast between the pigeon's magenta talons and the gray tones of the rooftop. Notice how Obregón uses this gray overlay throughout the painting to darken areas of color like the bright magenta or cyan. The process of making an etching is, in a sense, like drawing. Look at the dark lines in this print. Many have an obviously handmade quality to them, with variations in thickness and that kind of sketchy quality that comes from getting an idea down quickly. These lines and the bright colors he uses gives the whole scene kind of a sense of frenetic energy. I hope you have enjoyed this closer look at Alejandro Obregón's The Pigeons. Next time you see a pigeon milling around a city street, I hope you'll think back on this print. We look forward to seeing you soon at the DMA.